This is the Town of Darien Sewer Commission regular meeting agenda of Tuesday, February 4th. It is 4:30 PM in room 206 at Town Hall. We are calling the meeting to order at 4:31. And the first item on the agenda is to approve the minutes from our last meeting in January.
Okay.
There you go, your fog ordinance.
Oh, I got, oh,
Just what you were asking about.
I was so excited to read that.
Now, here it is.
Got it right. I had a couple minutes in that, so I knew you guys.
I had
Are we in
some
minutes?
We're in minutes.
I gave
If they're
some-
minor, you can hand them right in.
Well, I'm wondering what the egregious one is.
Where is it?
Or are we not talking about that?
Well, no,
I looked through it again, I found a couple more typos, but.
okay.
Do you have some edits?
So Bob Hill did not have a chance to review this.
Oh, my
No.
God.
Okay. I think I just lost a wager. I thought that you would find it. On the agenda sheet, item number 2, we erroneously
Oh,
said January. December, it should have been January.
these
No, I
are the
wouldn't- I
January
wouldn't have
minutes,
done
yes.
that.
I think we'll be okay.
Well done. Guys.
We posted it, we corrected it and posted it correctly, but your packages already went out, so.
Okay,
Just one spelling error on page 2 of 8.
I got that.
Hutchison?
And Christie,
No, not that.
that, but I also picked up Christie.
Where's Christie?
Is this the one with Christie Hill?
Oh, Christie
Yeah.
Hill?
Christie Hill is IE.
Oh, you're
Oh,
right.
yeah, look at that.
Yeah.
Okay. And then one.
Yeah, for the record,
more.
Ms. Cameron sent me an email which has a couple of
Couple of
typos.
those.
And then page 7 of 8, Darren. It's not building inspectors, it would be home inspectors.
Seven
Yeah,
of
that's a
eight.
good point.
And I would strike town.
Okay.
Home inspectors to get them to alert prospective purchasers. Because they're not going to alert the town. They're working for a buyer.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay.
I agree with that,
So
too.
that would be. and I
Town
didn't-
or, eliminate town or.
Yeah, town or
Got
strike
it.
that and instead of building home.
Got it.
All right, do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
So Reese has moved to approve the minutes as amended. Susan has seconded. Any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor, raise your hand now. Okay, I've got 3 approved. Do I have any noes? Do I have any abstains? 2 abstains.
I'll abstain, I haven't read most
302,
of it.
the minutes are final. Item number 3, sewer user fee appeals. I see nobody in the audience yet. Are any of these ones that we could dispense of without commentary from the appellant?
Well, it seemed like C and D were more technical in nature.
Okay.
Submetering.
Yeah,
So let's.
C and D, we can explain.
Okay.
A, it was tabled. I have
From
some
last
notes here
month, yeah.
from Penny. He might not come. There is some information in here. There was apparently, let's see, couldn't find
So,
anything to show
Just to
any leaks.
clarify for the record, you are on 2A, 216 Leroy Avenue, Robert Colo.
Yeah, 216.
Oh, you're on chronologue, okay.
Yeah, and his water did go down quite a bit following the following year, but for the same months that were high in this year's bill.
he said he thought he had a running toilet and leaky faucets, but
I think the billable months look consistent year over year.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you agree? Within
Well, yeah, I mean, his bill's consistent.
9 and 10, 12, in fact, it's one less this month.
I mean, there's there's really the 1 November, maybe December, but,
Well,
December,
November, December, January.
Yeah, November, December, January.
but we don't really have a,
No, I mean,
Shy of his saying that he thought he had a running toilet and leaky faucets.
I would make the motion, there's nothing we can do about it now.
Want to table it?
yeah, we'll table it. I agree, until, I don't want to deny something without
Agreed.
the appellant being able to have,
Do they need to bring
Represent
in a
themselves.
bill of some sort to show that I'm?
some evidence of,
Some evidence,
some
okay.
evidence, I guess.
This will be the second time we've held this one over, just
Yeah,
We
it's
can do
on
it
the
one, we can do
agenda.
one more.
All right, 3B, 5 Lillian Terrace, Thomas Williams.
Again, I just couldn't find a reason for that either.
Okay, I have some notes here from Penny. Water heater was not working, he fixed the problem, but water use did not decrease right away. The following year, water use is low compared to what happened in 218 and 2019.
So 16, 17, water
Yeah,
use
minimum
is low.
charge.
17,
Yeah,
18,
I
water use
should
is
have a
low.
minimum charge.
But
Well,
you don't
except
know, you
for-
don't know the occupancy status. It could be twice as many people that year.
I don't think so.
Were
His
those
wife, his
3
wife
months,
passed away.
4 months?
They paid $3,390 to Billy Simpson.
Yeah, that's for the water heater. though.
But that's for a
What
water
was the
heater,
date
that
of that?
really wouldn't, I mean,
If
if
it was
it
leaking?
if it exploded in the basement and,
I mean,
Well,
It's
my
got a whole
water
bunch of
heater
water on the
was-
ground.
Point until I replaced it.
excuse me?
My water heater was leaking in the basement till I replaced it.
It's almost like this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but the
It
thing is,
went-
the thing is, it doesn't go down after he replaces
It's
it.
almost, it almost like that's when it went up.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I can,
Hot water.
by adding the whole year, we can get down to 350, 380.
Do you
And
want,
that,
do you want to make a
Yeah.
motion?
that's
That
what
would
I
be
would make the
fair.
motion
Yeah,
for.
I'm good
I
with
mean,
that.
he can come back and go for more, but.
All right.
Well,
Bob
I
Hill
can
has
get
made a
you to
motion to
$353.80.
annual,
No, we're taking the,
Wait.
yep,
I mean, for the 2 prior years, you had minimum service charge, minimum,
Hmm.
right? And, I mean, there has to be an explanation.
He
So
may have
you
had,
think this is clear?
his wife passed away several
Well,
years
I
ago,
mean,
and maybe his kids came home.
What's our minimum charge?
They-
237.04.
237.04.
I could go either way
So,
on
Peter, do you want to make a motion?
Well,
that. It doesn't seem like it's a equipment failure, Peter. That's the only thing. There's nothing that points to something failing and
It does,
leaking.
it does seem pretty anomalous.
So it's probably a use-based situation where maybe he had guests over the winter. That's just my
Not-
guess.
well, why don't we
impossible,
table
either.
it then and get them in here?
We could also reduce it to 350, 380, and then if he wants to come in,
All
we
right,
could,
I'd go for that.
you know, that, at least we get him halfway there.
all right.
Okay, so Bob has a motion on the floor to reduce the bill to $353.80, calculated by adding all 12, the usage from all 12 months,
yes.
Total use.
total use. Do we have a second on that motion?
I'll second that.
Reese seconds the motion. Any further discussion? Hearing no further discussion, all those in favor, raise your hands. Okay, the appeal is granted, reducing the bill to $353.80. C, which is 139 Tokenique Road, Nancy Natali.
Okay, were you able to follow the spreadsheet, sorta, the logic?
Yeah.
Okay.
I could.
I know it's kind of convoluted. 139 Tokenique Road, if you look at 4 of 7, the sheet,
4 of 7.
apparently,
Okay,
79 is, the water usage for 79 Locust Hill is determined by subtracting the water usage of 139 from the main meter. There's 2 meters, there's 1 meter for the whole property, there's 2 houses on one property,
okay.
and only one of those houses has its own meter, and that's number 139. So if you, this is the information that we got from Aquarian. You take,
There's like a diagram on the right-hand corner of
Yeah.
7 of 7. If you look at 7 of 7, the grid paper all the way to the right in the bottom, you can see it.
yeah, that was me.
But the thing that doesn't make,
Beautiful.
I get how
Handwriting.
19 would be high because of the leak.
That's just,
And I get how 2017, when you get the 2 minimums, it's higher than the actual. But what happened in 18? How could the actual, when you look at the chart over here, and it's all, basically all zeros for 79, how could the actual be higher than the 2 minimums? It
We-
doesn't quite make sense.
Because we don't
on that.
calculate it like
We
that.
had the
I
same
know
question.
that, but I'm just saying something seems askew there.
Yeah, we had the same question, and there's also a negative number in the center column there.
Yeah, I
Which-
saw that.
How does that happen?
Because they're subtracting in the end.
Rounding.
They couldn't explain it to us, and they said they would check with their IT people. We pestered them for a couple weeks straight. Didn't get a good answer out of them. They gave us some clues as to what might be if the property changed hands. In this case, I don't think that was the case. I think these people have lived there forever.
Yeah.
Sometimes they read the meter twice in a month, and then the following month, they won't read it, which is why they're telling us now that we shouldn't follow the chart on the water bill, which is a general indication of how much water people are using, not necessarily the exact meter reading. The spreadsheet that you see here is the actual meter readings. Another reason is they said what they do is they truncate to the nearest foot. So it's possible when they're truncating that you're dropping digits, and that's how you end up with a negative number.
So you appear to have put a fair amount of time into
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
calculating what happened here. So I'm going to ask, knowing that you understand generally what we're trying to do, if you have a recommendation for us to consider.
Let's see what I wrote.
Would you like that memo that Penny has?
Let's see.
Or no?
I don't want to contradict Penny.
Yeah, don't ever do that.
Did she do the chart down there on 107?
Oh, this is the next one.
Next one, we gotta go back. Yes.
Like I said, I just, the 2018 one is the one that befuddles me a bit. Maybe I'm missing something. but-
2019.
But see, it should be two minimums, because if you look at 79 Locust Hill for 2018, basically they use 3
So
or
what
4
we have a
cubic feet for the whole
recommendation
year.
here, right on the first page.
Yep, exactly.
Yes.
So it appears as though staff is recommending a revised bill total
215.
be 633.54, split between 237.04 for 139 Tokenique and 396.50 for Locust Hill.
1 of 7, your chart.
Yes.
Yeah,
Do you want to
I
make
agree with
3
what you just
different
said.
motions, Greg?
you agreed with what I said.
Yeah,
Okay.
237.04 for 139, 396.50 for Locust Hill.
Yeah.
And 633 was just adding both of them together, I guess. Didn't do the math.
Wait a minute, do I have this backwards?
Let me see.
Because they're not really changing
Well,
2018.
Shouldn't 79 be the minimum every time? Isn't that the yellow on 4 of 7, where all the zeros are? Isn't this
392.
backwards? Isn't 139 the one who's actually using a bit of water?
If you look at my calculation sheet, it's a little bit different than Penny's, and I think I should explain that. What I did was take from the spreadsheet the actual meter readings and days, and I came up with the usage per day, and then I prorated that for the year. That's not the way we normally do it. The way Penny did it in her memo here is she took those 5 months and multiplied it by 2.4, which is how we calculate every other bill. So that's why you'll see a little bit of a difference between hers and mine. But they're very close, and I did it my way just to see if I would come out close to hers, and I did.
But what I'm still saying is, isn't 79 the one here that's using next to no water? And you have them with a bill for a $396.50 for 2019. When I think it should be the minimum, I think you transpose those two.
Take a look at 4 of 7, Bob.
Yeah, that's
Go
what I'm
to-
looking at.
Go to the yellow column.
Yeah,
The numbers that she used for that year are
that isn't the one?
10 and 17.
Yeah, but that's all leak. All those, anything other than a 1 is a leak. If you look at the Murphy Brother landscaping bill.
And then the year
Yeah.
before that, at 18, she has all those zeros and
Yeah.
ones that you're talking about.
Yes.
And
So
at the
that's
bottom,
right.
she has the minimum charge of $219.55.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is
That's 2018. He's talking about 2019.
I'm talking about 2019.
Is 2019 flipped between,
It should be 392, right?
they got 396.50.
Yeah.
79 Locust.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Bob.
27.
The
I thought it
numbers-
should be the
The
minimum.
numbers are transposed, so
Yeah, but
139 should be 396, and
Yeah.
79 should be 237.
Ah,
No?
No,
I don't think so,
Think so.
no.
Well, then they both should be the minimum.
See,
I think they both should be the minimum, but that's what I came up with, but I'm
okay,
new.
Wow.
Yeah, because what's it, 38, basically you get 38 CCFs gratis for the
See-
minimum. So,
3, 4.
2, 3, 2, yeah, that's
If you look-
like 3 and change. So they both should be the minimum.
I make a motion that.
Well,
both
if you-
addresses-
if you look at the top of the page on my calculations here,
Okay, the top.
and that would be page 3C, 7 of 7.
3C, 7 of 7, yeah.
gonna make
Hold on, everybody. Please speak one person at a time
Okay. Oh.
so that our reporter can adequately.
Okay,
Okay.
Peter has, hold on, we can do discussion in a second. Peter has a motion on the table that the minimum charge is applied to both addresses.
Okay.
Susan has
seconded
seconded that motion. Now I will say, any further discussion on the motion, and we can go to discussion again.
yeah, what's the reasoning? I mean, I'm getting there too, but I just want to know what your reasoning is on.
I just listened to the conversation and I'm convinced it's good enough for me.
Darren, did you have anything to add?
Simply that, if you look at the top of the page in the
Okay.
3C, 7 of 7, 2019, very top of the page,
Which one? which page?
you see
Okay.
the,
7
between
and
119
7.
and 321,
No, keep going the other way.
you end up with 27
Keep
CCF
going.
for 79 Locust
Hold
Hill,
Yep.
times 365 divided by, that's 153 days, times $6.10 per CCF. It does end up, that's the math that I did, I came up with 392, 91.
11, 12. I got,
Oh, you're using November, oh, but you're using a 13 and a 19?
A 10 and a 17,
Oh, excuse me, a 10 and a 17.
yes.
All right, so wait a minute. And so those are in January and February. They fixed the leak when? I gotta remember now. They
August.
fixed the leak in August, but I mean, those, compared to years past,
392.
but we don't have the proof.
Yeah, that
of
doesn't,
when the leak started?
Or, yeah, when was,
237.
We know when it was fixed. It was fixed
Yeah, yeah.
in,
oh, so it could have started then.
It could have I believe it did start then, because
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it gets
So that's the leak.
progressively,
So that's the leak,
it gets progressively worse
which
except
is
for
what you
one
said.
dip.
which is what you said. 10 and 17 could be the leak, and 10 and 17 are anomalous to all other years, which is what convinced Peter to make his motion.
Okay.
And I made
second.
those zero,
Okay.
and that's when I said they should get the minimum charge of 237.04.
Okay.
I mean, I appreciate what you did, I just,
Any further discussion on the motion?
So this motion is only for 2019,
I think it's for all. of them.
minimum for both?
well, once you get to the minimum for 79, they're all minimums.
Yep. 6
Okay.
minimum.
All six,
So make it minimum for all,
Well, it already was, right? I mean,
for 5 of the 6, it already was when you referred to the
Oh, I see.
revised bill. It's just
okay.
2019 for 79 that wasn't
Okay.
the minimum.
1919.
So,
From-
Peter,
Yes,
Penny's
yes, I agree with what you said.
calculations.
I
would you
agree.
consider revising your motion to apply to all 3 years?
Look,
Which is what these recommendations are. So this is the recommendation, so that's a minimum, that's a minimum, that's a
no,
minimum.
yeah, I would change my motion to a minimum charge for all 3 years for both properties.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll still second that motion.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? Okay.
I think that was the easy one.
The next is harder.
All right, why don't we just take a couple of minutes and
Read it?
read it?
I'd love to.
We're on 3D,
D.
103 South Kings Highway.
Where are
Jose
these?
Martinez Robles.
Excuse me?
Where are these on Kings Highway?
Gotta be over by like Queens,
Okay.
it's right before Queens Lane on the
Is
left.
that where the road used to come through?
No, there's that driveway, there's a couple of
Hollister.
common driveways to the left if you're going toward Stanford.
Hollister Lane? Was it south?
Yeah, and then there's another like driveway it's on an angle and goes uphill.
Yes, yes.
There's a pool back there somewhere that I did once or twice on it. But yeah, that's gotta be what it is, because on the other side, they're all single dwellings right backed up to the Poach Road.
Yep.
Okay.
103 got hammered.
105. Have subs.
I would just mention that there's only one appeal here.
Is that 103?
Yeah,
That would be my guess.
so the other two didn't complain.
They were accurate.
Maybe you want to
Well, they
change it or you don't.
The other two have their own sub meters, so theirs should be straightforward, correct?
They
Unless
should
there
be,
was a leak.
yes.
So,
They both have their own meters that meter only their property, that's correct.
okay.
So who's complaining?
Well,
103.
103.
The guy was paying $1,200 and $1,000
well, because basically he's paying
for
the
everything.
three of them put together.
So, but,
Huh?
Yep.
yeah, and so basically his bill wasn't netted out. And so this goes through the
That's what it appears to be.
process of netting it out.
Can CompuTel do that now? Net it out? They don't have, or they have access to the sub-meters?
I had a guess, I think they were adding the main meter in somehow, which is kind of double counting.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I
We
mean,
have some work to do to fix it, so this doesn't happen again next year.
Put
Does
water
the
meters
Public
in?
Utility
We're gonna talk to
Commission
them.
really allow that to happen?
Get them to do something.
What's that?
I thought that there was, you know, you'd have to have a regulation that allows sub-metering, because that's really sub-metering.
I don't know what the regulations are with
I mean.
with regards to allowing it, but I know the water company's getting around to doing it because they've had this problem billing for so long.
Well, I know with electric, the electric people are
Yeah,
very.
electric's a little different, yeah.
Very strict about it.
You want to take the one motion?
Yes.
Well,
All right, the, page 3 of D, the recommendation is that the 2019 charge for 103 go from 1259.04 to 396.50. The 2018 1017 go to 316.40. And the 2017 1274.20 go to 387.80. That would be my motion.
So
okay.
this is the middle two columns on the first page.
Yep.
I second that.
Okay, any further discussion on the motion?
Yeah, I do have discussion.
Do you want
She has a
What I did was see the number under the actual charge,
Yeah, but, yes, I
and
know
then
what you're gonna say.
and then I sucked out the two revisions,
Yes.
and I don't get those numbers.
No, you don't, because if you do it by the November through March,
Oh, okay. That's how she did it?
rounded, 100 cubic feet, and then
Okay.
annualize it, it's different.
I didn't get to that. See, normally I would read the whole thing. I didn't get that far.
2017
Yeah.
should be the two low
The
quarters.
two calculations come up with slightly different numbers, but not
Darren, do you want
anything
that?
worth
Got it.
shaking a stick at.
Okay.
All right.
I got it, it's there.
Can I get a vote on that motion? 5-0.
I didn't get
Okay, through much torture and pain, we have dispensed of at least 3 sewer user fee appeals.
to? Thank,
I'm sorry.
Yes.
It's not, I'm not following.
Yes, sure.
Okay.
So I have, did you do the first motion? Did-
There was, on
I did
3D,
for all three at once.
Well-
Yeah, who seconded it?
yeah, hold on, yeah, so the motion on 3D was to revise 3 years' worth of sewer user fee charges for 103 Old Kings Highway South and only 103 Old Kings Highway South to the values indicated in the middle two, the 1, 2, 3, fourth column of the first page there.
Who seconded that?
And Susan seconded it.
Thank you for who?
This is the important part. that I-
Yes,
I appreciate it.
and we are being a little sloppy tonight, so
Yeah.
feel free to stop us.
Free range.
You can get the record straight.
She's got body-like qualities.
We're not our usual self.
Right?
Yeah, no, I was
Body
gonna
language
say.
Challenge the inner body. Discipline.
He was very strict.
So let me know, Elizabeth, when you're ready to continue. Good to go, okay. All right, we're gonna move on to item number 4, which is discussion on a revised or created FOG ordinance.
Passed out, Ed's been working on this, I passed out some stuff. in this meeting, and I'll speak for Ed just for a second. He's cognizant of the fact that you just put your eyes on this. He's not-
Yeah,
As did I.
so
So I gave you a copy of the email so you could see, I just got it today, so.
would we like to review this between now and the next meeting and have more substantive discussion at the next meeting?
It's like he read my mind. We're on top of it.
Make a motion, we table it till next meeting.
Okay, we are tabling it.
One quick comment about it.
Yes, please.
Wayne did take his time going through this, more importantly, the penalties area,
Yes,
to make sure that we could actually enforce and collect.
yes.
But this is our last shot going through the ordinance, so take your time going through the whole thing. Please, if there have any questions that you want me to have answers for next week's meeting or next month's meeting, send me an email. If there's something that you would like me to get more information on, so I'll have the answers for you.
Would you be able to send this to us so we can read it?
Digitally?
Make it bigger?
Yeah.
Read it digitally? That'd be great.
What's the next step? If we vote this in, does it go to the RTM for ratification? How does that work? Or can we just do this?
It's got to go through the process, it's got to go through the Board of Selectmen,
Board of Selectmen first, then?
then before it goes. But I'll go over that with Wayne as soon as we have a finished product.
Just trying to remember the last time we did it.
Sorry.
Yeah, it is in the code of ordinance.
This is black line, right, still?
Yes.
Or if we could get a copy of, as if all the black lines were correct.
Clean copy as well,
Yeah,
accept
clean.
all changes.
Yeah.
Is that all right? I mean,
Yeah.
If I send it to you as a Word document, you can do that yourself.
Yeah, either
But I'll
way.
send you both.
I just want, and for example, there, section 12 appears in the document 3 times. I presume that the section 12 only applies once, and the other 3 items are below it. But
We graciously request to receive
Most gracious.
both the red line version and a clean version for our consideration
You got it.
via email.
You need to know.
That's on me the one time we printed not in color. The one time,
Sorry.
sorry.
Well, I mean, it's still, it's,
It's hard to see,
that way you
but
can,
everything's white.
when you get it complete, you know, whatever you were doing is done, right?
So that's it for item number 4. Moving on, item number 5 is listed as 17 Freight Court, sewer easement discussion and action. Do we have any additional information to consider tonight?
The commission asked that Ms. Sharika at 17 Freight Court go and get an easement from
Wow.
her neighbor.
Look at that.
That's Jerry Nielsen.
She did.
She approached him.
Very kind.
They worked together. They presented us with an easement that was already
Yeah.
signed, which is fine because our attorney, John Wayne Fox, approved it in the current form. So I guess what we're asking for is a motion to allow Ms. Sharika to go ahead and record this.
So normally, someone would submit a draft easement for our consideration, we would approve it, and then they would finalize it. In this particular case, they were eager to resolve, having spent several months negotiating with their neighbors. But it looks like everything is in order, the language is good, and we're happy with it.
Yes.
Everyone should have a neighbor like that.
Yeah, it's my understanding that Ms. Sharika actually paid Mr. Nielsen's attorney to prepare this, and when I reviewed it, it looked very even-handed, and when I forwarded it to John Wayne Fox, he said it was fine.
Okay. So the easement documents are acceptable, the easement map looks good. You're looking for us to, at this point, we're not even involved. You can allow a
No.
connection at this point.
No, that's not true. No, nothing's happening without you guys.
If I came to you with an easement and a right to use it, you wouldn't let me tie into my sewer?
Not if we know you didn't bless it yet.
No,
Okay.
no,
Oh,
the commission,
Yes. I guess we have the opportunity to say this language isn't good enough.
Yes.
Because we have to effectively accept the
Do you
language.
want it?
And she'll need a permit from us to move forward, and we won't issue that without your concurrence.
Make it happen, Reese.
I move that we accept this and allow them to record it, and if the chairman feels it's appropriate to allow them to connect. Would that be reaching?
You should try to push it back on me. I did find a typo, but that's okay.
No.
Oh, yeah, I did.
Where is it?
Top of 9 of 9, the spelling of description.
Yep. We'll fix that. Even though it's already
It's
exited.
it's a change-out
We
page.
need a second.
All right, we have a motion on the table to approve the easement and its language and allow the connection to the sewer. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I saw Peter's hand first out of the corner of my eye, so Peter seconds. And any further discussion on the motion?
Peter?
Hearing none, Peter was the second. Hearing none, all those in favor? All right. Boy, I hope we're not judged on this meeting.
You gotta set the bar low so we can always beat it.
Yeah, we'll try harder next time. Really, we know what we're doing. Item 6, federal project review, sanitary sewer inspection, discussion, and action.
You out on that one?
Yeah,
Oh, that's what you meant by federal.
Federal, yeah.
I'll
yes.
just give you a brief synopsis so that you can,
For the record,
Yes.
Elizabeth, I am abstaining from all discussion and action
Oh,
on
that
this
federal.
item.
Okay.
so as you know, they're starting their project. There is some sanitary sewer work on the property. I'd say it's significant in comparison to what we normally do inspections for. What we've asked Federal Realty to do with regards to the stormwater is to work with a third-party engineer. The company that did the original review for planning and zoning will now be on site to certify it's being installed correctly. We would like to do, and we have done in the past with larger projects, have a third-party engineer look at the sanitary sewer on site, and our department would do the connections off-site or into the right-of-way. So we wouldn't have to go onto the construction site itself.
So Anthony wouldn't be measuring pitch?
He wouldn't have to go into the,
Deep
no, and to be honest with you, I'd prefer not to have him in there. But the other option would be to allow the company that did the design to certify the sanitary sewer installation themselves. Also, not always something that is approved or looked on favorably, but that is an option.
And would they be required to do an as-built, signed, stamped, they pitch
that-
everything, grade, bearing?
It would be, yes.
Stop and Shop.
Stop and Shop.
Walgreens.
Did they, who was their engineer? Was it Ty and Bond? Who did the water, the stormwater?
The sanitary and stormwater was done by Brendan Samit.
Oh, this- okay. Wasn't sure.
We do try to keep the groups apart. It's-
I know we often had peer review on P and Z.
Yeah,
We
and
haven't.
and they did it this year too,
Yeah.
because of the magnitude of the project, and we'll probably end up doing the same thing over at Palmer's, so we kind of thought we'd bring it to you now. They're just about ready to start digging over there. They have already, I'm sorry, with the drainage. I'm assuming the sanitary is coming really soon. Kind of want to get out in front of that a little bit more.
Yeah.
So if the commission feels that we should stay the course of having them bring in a third party to do the inspection for that installation, then that's what I'll pass on to the Director of Planning and Zoning. We'll move that forward.
So just to clarify, it would basically be checks and balances.
Somebody has to do the inspection.
No, but having not the company that designed it inspect it, to me, it's checks and balances.
It is. And it's a
It's
good
another
practice.
set of eyes,
It's-
and it's a
It's standard
independent-
practice. It is standard practice. Now, a project that size. Now, talk to me about a single-family home where they put in a sanitary sewer lateral and 2 Coltech units and tie it in, having the engineer certify that it was installed correctly, and a quick, look at an as-built plan will tell you that you pretty much probably got a good system installed. The magnitude of this project calls for some really good inspection, some of the third party where they're not involved with the design, and making sure that the best interests of the town and the property owners are.
Well, you're
looked
also
after.
talking multiples of pipe, as opposed to 300 to 500 feet, you're
Yes.
talking
Well,
a couple thousand.
There's There's oil separators included there too. There's a lot of things that go to the sanitary sewer that should be
So
inspected.
Ed, was that, in the planning and zoning approvals, did they have that as one of the conditions of approval for the site?
I don't recall, I don't want to speak out of turn to that.
How often do we change or add conditions at this level for our commission? I know the scope of this is unprecedented in terms of,
And I can't speak, I've only been here that short time. You folks would know better than I would, how they go back or make modifications, or, require that inspections be done, but now they'll have to foot the bill for a third-party inspector. We want to let them know ahead of time, so they're not surprised as they call for inspections that we will not be able to perform for them.
Well, we could easily go back and find out if it was required by P and Z.
yeah, and why a third party? Could it be the engineers that designed it? In this case, it is Redness and Mead that's responsible for,
And the comments will not go, and I don't point them at the design company at all, any of the design companies. But the thought process is, if the original company that did the design is out there doing the inspections also, and they come across an
That's a
issue,
conflict of interest.
they're,
I don't think so, they're stamping it.
No,
No,
it's
I-
a conflict of interest.
Well, they
No,
are
it's
going
not.
to,
It's structural engineer designs a house and he goes out and makes sure they build it accordingly.
But again, you said house.
This is-
Building is different scale.
Okay.
It's a different.
It's the scale issue, it's not.
I
I
get it, I get it.
Like I said, instead of it being a couple hundred feet, it's a couple thousand feet with an oil separator and, possibly pumps and
No,
other
when-
issues.
When a structural engineer designs, right, it gets approved by a building department. And they're looking over those steel drawings pretty closely. So, there's a check and balance, there have to be, it's just too much at stake.
but our buildings department doesn't inspect the sanitary.
Well, they're no big,
if it gets outside their norm, they have what is called special inspections, where there's an inspector or a certified inspector to come out and do certain things on certain pieces of equipment that's,
A third-party inspector.
yeah.
rebar, concrete, steel studs,
Well, we always used, on P and Z, we always used time bond, unless that we couldn't, because they were.
No, I know, we did on large projects, did have a peer review.
We
at
always
the
had a peer
I mean,
application
in
stage.
concrete, you have
You slump test.
ordinarily in a
Sure.
big job, you'd have a slump test.
And a compression
They come
test.
out and they
Yeah.
do one of those, and somebody looks at that.
You
that
have a
would be-
testing company that comes in and grabs those samples and takes
Yeah.
them and has those done.
So
But
what's
this is
the-
in place, and this is construction in place.
So what-
It's
what's-
installed in backfill.
What's the alternative, that Anthony has to go out there a lot and check everything?
Yeah, and
that's not feasible.
It's not feasible. He's physically not able to be in three places at one time. We're just have, between this one,
No, I
Palmer's
agree.
and Corbin coming up, I think we need to set up,
Yeah. I agree.
set ourselves up to be able to properly inspect these for the property.
Are we ever
And
gonna?
move it along.
Are we ever gonna take over the sewer within the property lines?
No, there's no mains in there, no.
No,
this-
so that's all.
They're
If
separate.
there's a break within the property line, that's their problem. Just like if there's a
It's
break
everybody's
on
problem.
a
Correct.
sewer line in my property, I gotta take care of it.
Yeah, but Anthony would still, as part of the permit process, come out and inspect that
Yeah.
for slope, construction, make sure your bedding is proper and
And I've
depth.
seen him dive into holes. He
Yeah.
does a really good job and
Yeah.
checks everything with a level. It's not eyeballing it at all. Impressive.
When they did the high school project, there was a peer review.
Yeah. That's
For the whole,
and a
site.
monitor
Site monitor and a
during
peer review,
construction.
yeah.
So
And
I guess
then-
if that's a town project, I'm only thinking like, in terms of like, here's your permit, and oh, by the way, we're adding these new conditions that cost a lot of money.
Well, let's check and see if they were new conditions.
I think if you make a decision to go a certain direction and they have an issue with it, there's a forum for that, and
Yeah,
it's
come
next
back.
month, and they can come back and speak to you about that.
And do we anticipate the other two large projects having this same?
I think we should be consistent
Template.
going forward.
Okay.
I will tell you that Anthony will do as much as you allow him to do. I just know that his workload is good. If you don't take the time properly to do your proper inspections, that's gonna be a problem later.
What's
And I don't
happening
wanna
with
set
Old
that
Town,
precedent.
what's happening with Old Town homes, the senior homes? Is that having a separate inspection?
It says one sewer lateral connection. It's
Oh,
probably,
okay.
Anthony's probably doing it.
All right.
He had to do that.
At this point, we need some action of some sort, and I guess that's to say that we should probably have some third-party inspection on both these properties.
How about we present that to the developer,
Yeah.
the conditions that you'd like to see fit, and then say how it goes from there? Because I think what we did with the stormwater, Jeremy sent out a bullet list to the consultant to say, okay, this is what we think you'll need. Please give us an estimate. And we've presented it to the developer. Now they're reviewing it. And if there's things that are in there that are redundant or could be spaced out a little bit differently, we're allowing the consultant right now to work with that, to Reese's point, to reduce that extra cost. And I think that's fair. I think we could do the same thing with the sanitary sewer. I think Jeremy will send them a list, or send a third-party consultant a list. They'll give us an estimate. We can present it to the developer and his consultant, and they can review it and comment on it.
Do we need a motion?
If you'd like me to do something, I think you do.
Okay. I can't make the motion. I'm the vice chairman, so that means I'm in the big seat right now. Golly,
We want to
golly.
make a motion that they reach out to the developer with these concerns, that we would like to have a third-party inspection done of the sanitary sewer. And I guess that's before you fill it in. Right. Is that what you're looking for?
Or more.
I'm looking for a little bit more than that.
Okay.
I'm looking for you to direct me to move ahead with getting numbers from a third party,
Oh,
so that the
And that's-
director of planning and zoning can present it to
okay.
the
I'd like to make a
developer.
motion that you get an estimate from a third-party engineer to do inspections of this project at Federal Realty.
for the sanitary sewer.
For the sanitary sewer.
And all entities that empty into it. I mean, you're talking, there's a,
Anything
correct?
that's,
Or is that what you meant?
anything that's consistent with the sanitary sewer system, we will inspect the tie-ins going out to the right of way.
Should we expand this to cover, is Federal doing Palmer's?
No.
Shall we expand this, the same thing regarding?
You're gonna
Palmer's?
probably hear the same speech from me when we come to Palmer's and when we come to Corbin.
All right,
And so you could let Jeremy know that
okay.
we're looking probably for the same information.
Yeah. And we're gonna be looking to be consistent
Right.
throughout the three large
The
projects.
three large projects, yep.
And we'll see if, we'll see if we can arrive at a number that's, that's reasonable. I think that's fair.
Do we have a second? Oh, sorry.
Do you have the motion?
You made it, so I'll second.
Okay.
All those in favor?
All right.
Opposed? Abstaining?
I guess that's
check.
Craig.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I'm opposed because the building fees generated by this project should be more than sufficient to do inspections.
But we would have to, I think you'd almost have to hire someone to be there 2 hours a day, every day of their construction.
So we should increase our building fees
They-
in order
no,
to do
no,
large projects?
No.
I think that's where we're
No,
going
it's a
here,
percentage-
larger?
It's a percentage of the building. That's how they get their fees. And you could hire an army with what they're probably going to do.
So we
Well,
have
I think it's
3,
important when you're talking
1,
sanitary sewer that it's installed correctly. It would be nice to have that verified.
Does the motion pass?
What's that?
Yeah.
Reese's objected.
Yes, and Craig had to
All right.
recuse himself, abstain.
Craig Flaherty's back in the room.
Just, I don't even know how to ask, just for giggles, what? Could we have just an idea of like what Stanford or Norwalk do when the construction site gets to the, bigger than a couple
Bread-
family house,
bread
couple
basket.
family development? Do they have what I call a site engineer or site monitor?
Check and see what they do now. I haven't been there in 9 years. Craig would probably know better than anybody what goes on, but my thought is I think some of the consulting engineers that do the design actually certify the construction on site, my recollection.
That's Stanford's standard operating procedure.
Yeah.
They have a very large engineering and sewer department
They do.
with a lot of staff.
We pay for that.
They
don't
do.
We pay for
We pay in.
15% of it, plus or minus, depending on the year.
Hopefully less soon.
I'm going to move on to the superintendent's report, item number 7. What do you got, Ed?
7A. I don't have anything new for you other than to say we did wrap up our workshop meeting. They are putting together the final draft, or the first draft of the to-do items, if you will, low-hanging fruit, if you, a good way to put it. But I have not gotten anything back from them since our last meeting. And I think we had one more after our previous sewer commission meeting.
The rain gauges are in.
Yes,
The
they are.
flow meters are in.
Flow meters, no.
Flow meters are not in.
Rain gauges are in, ground monitoring.
Ground
is in.
monitoring is in.
We are, you have this on our list or no, Darren?
That you
We
start,
don't.
I don't.
starting on
Okay.
Monday?
So we have, took all my glory there. Thursday, we're gonna be talking with Flow Assessment. They're gonna come in Monday, Tuesday, possibly Wednesday night, and start working on the Mechanic Street sewer shed area. So they are gonna start that process, and within the next week or two, we're gonna hopefully start doing our pump station inspections too.
So how many, remind me, approximately, doesn't have to be perfect, how many flow meters are we putting in this first round?
8 or 9 are going,
And
something like that.
And so those will be installed in the next week or
In
so?
the next couple of weeks, yeah, they're gonna try to get them in.
Perfect.
Before the springtime.
Perfect.
They said the water levels seem to be high enough now to where we'll get some,
And we're looking for
User response.
a run of 6 weeks,
I think it is 6. 4 to 6, it really depends on what
On if we
kind
get
of
capture a couple of
information we're getting
storms.
back.
Excellent. And they'll roll right into the pump station inspections.
Well, different groups do it, so I'm
Yep.
kind of hoping that, the problem is I want our guys to go with them when they do the inspections.
And the pump station is focused on the Stony Brook sewer shed for now? Or is it everything?
The,
The
sorry?
pump station inspections.
No, we're gonna do all 14. We'll start
14.
there, we'll work our way out, but
Okay.
I want,
Excellent.
I want all 14 done.
That's great. I'm very happy about that. Well, I'm glad we're here.
While we're on that, give me 2 seconds.
I'm
Ku-
all
kudos-
excited about getting started.
Kudos to staff to getting the notification out on social media there, because they're gonna be working at night, and that way, hopefully, enough people will see it where they won't be alarmed at seeing vehicles on their road in the night next week.
They have a funny process of when they're out on the street on how they do and don't protect themselves. So I'll have our trucks there. What they don't do, though, is put all their flashing lights on. What they do have a lot of reflective material out there, if you will, cones, vests, whatever it may be. The thinking is, and has been, and shown actually in some results, flashing lights wake people up.
Yeah.
People get up to see what's going on. They have a tendency in the middle of the night while they're up to use the facilities.
Kidding.
So, and I chuckled, I said, "You're kidding us." She says, "We have proof that this actually happens." So, not for, I said, for safety reasons, I want the best we can have out there, whatever it is, and we will make sure that they're our guys and.
Our personnel are going to be shadowing them through this effort.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And police are going to be,
Not in the neighboring streets. We'll see what happens on the post road, which is where there's well-lit areas and I can actually use the flashing lights. We'll see how busy. We didn't do it with the police officers when we did the cleaning down the Boston Post Road, but it was in one of the parking lots. So we really didn't think we had to.
okay.
So we'll continue doing that. It's a good way to save money, but if it's an issue like under the bridge at West Avenue in Tokenique, under the railroad bridge there, I'll probably have a police escort there, or a car or two, just to make sure.
Okay. Fantastic.
Good stuff.
3B, 7B, 7B.
Easements and maps are filed.
Yeah.
Took over 2 years. I got everybody on board.
And is there physical work to be completed, or we're done?
We're waiting for the panel.
We are waiting for the panel. That's taking as long as the
That's on
easement is.
order.
And we do have our contractor ready to start the excavation and digging, but
Okay.
we're not ready to do that right now.
Got it.
We don't want to dig it until we have all the, at least the parts here.
Yeah.
And we got concrete to pour, so we may wait till April to do the excavation and then start laying the panel down.
In the meantime, we reached out to the resident who gave us an easement in the YMCA, let them know that we would be talking to them before, we wouldn't just show up on their property one day with the backhoe. So we're starting to introduce our staff to those people so that they can have contact through the process.
7C.
Green Mountain came down, that's the contractor that we signed up to do the work. They re-cleaned and re-televised the line on Center Street. They do that with every project, even though we provided them with the recent tapes. They do their own, and while they're doing that, they measure for the liner. I have been in contact with them at least a couple times a week. They're waiting to have other night work in the area, probably Norwalk, because that's why we were able to work with them and get a
Is this
good
the one
price.
with the rock?
Excuse me?
This is not the one with
This is
the
the
rock.
egg
Center Street behind Back Street,
Oh, the egg pipe. Okay, got it.
the pipe where the 345 kW, yeah. So I don't have an answer of when, but I'm told soon. As soon as they have other stuff scheduled, they've already done the cleaning and measuring of the pipe, so it's just a matter of them wetting up a liner and loading it on a truck. And we asked them to do it in the early morning hours, I mean, before 6 a.m., which is why they have to have other work at the same time.
3D.
Okay.
Seven,
connection
keep saying
fees.
7D.
Connection fees, the commission asked that we tell Jamie Stevenson, first selectman, that there would be a potential new fee. We did, we informed Jamie. The commission asked for this document at a previous meeting. We found it, and it's in your package. I think that it's a really good document. It answers a lot of the questions the commission had. It certainly puts to bed any gray. I think you'll find in there, in clear language, that you are allowed to charge connection fees. You are allowed to use that money for O&M, not just necessarily to recoup the cost of the installation of the sewer. It's all legal. They even reference the Connecticut General Statutes and give you some examples of why you want to do that. I think one of the examples that I really liked was when your infrastructure is aging out. So, and they even go as far as to say that, I believe, didn't read it just today, but some towns even charge fees to people who aren't served by the sewer. Wow, that's a lot of power you have there.
Well, I mean,
Everybody likes
when you were,
swimming. you know.
when you were putting in the ones in Norotan Bay, you could conceivably tax the entire town because you're saving the sound which is used by the entire town. You can stretch it all kinds of ways.
And apparently, at least the state gives you that leeway. And you asked us to look forward further into how other people charge. And 7D, 11 of 13, is what I got back from Stanford. And I am not going to make believe that I fully understand it, but I think I do.
See, that's part of what they
Yeah.
really go down the rabbit hole hard.
Yes, they do.
Yeah, you really do.
And why is that necessary?
I don't think
The first time I asked them the question, I found a newspaper article, and I couldn't find anything online, and their newspaper article talked about how they were raising connection fees. And then I reached out to Stanford to find out if there was any new information or any information in addition to this newspaper article. Did they have something official? And the answer was, no, believe it or not, that's how we're doing it. So based on what you folks have asked the staff, we went back and said, what about a commercial? But I understand a guy puts a shower stall and he gets dinged at 0.5 something, which at least some people over there even objected to. But what I got back was this email, and I'm assuming that an auto sales room is one, so that means one of those for 25 square feet front of building and fraction thereof. So if you have a 25-foot building on an auto sales room, that's $3,050, and if you have 50 feet, well, maybe it's $6,100.
And what new staff person are you gonna hire to explain this to someone who comes to the window? It's
What do they
insane.
do with the skyscraper?
It's insane. I read that, and I'm like, you're out of your mind. That is government going absolutely nuts. And trying to find some sort of equity that's in the ether doesn't exist. Just amazing.
Kind of like, Bethel.
Yeah, I liked Bethel. I don't know.
What if you
you
just
know,
said a simple
A flat,
per
well,
unit?
that's what Bethel is. So
Yeah,
Bethel
Bethel
is,
is simple.
on the residential side, it's $200 of an application fee plus $500 per unit. I'm not saying these are the right values, but that's it.
Yeah.
And then they have a non-residential size that's based on just total square footage involved. The bigger the project, the bigger the connection fee. Now, there's a lot of stuff that gets lost in there in terms of like, storage facility might be very large but uses no water.
Or an auto-
You know,
or
yeah,
auto-
or, yeah,
yeah.
you know, or a
an
restaurant might be small but use a ton of water.
Home Depot,
You know, so.
always have one toilet.
Yeah,
You know?
so, I think the residential side is kind of easy because you could do a per unit number and that's pretty equitable depending on
I completely
what you're
agree.
doing. But I think, the non-residential side, you almost have to do it by the size of the pipe required to serve it. Because they're going to do their calculation based on the building code and the number of fixtures in the building, and that's going to come out with a certain diameter pipe that they need to install for water supply.
What about like Gardner Center in Nielsen, the watering plant?
And they're going to have a larger service connection. Well, so.
Well, Gardner Center was
When
just
we
in.
deal
I know.
with this in Norwalk, the Norwalk WPCA does allow the engineer on the project, mechanical engineer on the project, to write a letter that says, yes, our tap size is 6 inches,
However.
but our domestic fixture unit count is this, which would, by the code, only require a 4-inch. So we should get the 4-inch rate, and WPCA tends to approve that with a certified engineer's explanation.
Because they may also need it for fire protection.
Right.
Yeah, well,
Fair enough.
that's always, you always discount fire protection off of domestic. So you're, again, as we do with our user fee appeals, we're looking for domestic. Now, anything we set up should be simple because, there's not a heck of a lot of new construction in Darien. And we don't need to knock ourselves out trying to figure out how to come up with the perfect apple. But I think a per unit charge on the residential side to me makes sense. I think a domestic water service tap size on the commercial side seems to me to make sense. Now, what happens if you get a really big mixed-use project that's half commercial and half residential?
I think, look, Craig, I'll throw it back to you. Really, the connection
Maybe
fee
mixed
is,
use is also non-residential.
say you have your project that's going to use a lot of water. You don't know because you're trying to size the water main. You're using an engineer to pull out the slide rule and figure out fairness. If there were just a connection fee for that as well, the next year it would capture it anyway, the total use.
Well, yeah, you start, but
It's only
but
the
again,
first year
connection
you're
is
trying-
different than.
No, I get it. It's the ability to use, but most properties are already developed in Darien, already have connection on the
Yeah.
commercial side.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a huge project gonna happen in North Darien where there's no sewer. They bring the sewer and then we have this fee associated with the water line.
Now, yeah, but you get redevelopment.
Right.
Redevelopment is a new connection.
Ish.
Ish.
You get people building houses as big as country clubs.
True.
Yeah, well, but they still have the same 4 people living there.
Yeah, if they live there.
They're 9
Um,
bathrooms.
But I agree with you, the per residential one, we come up with a number. It's a permit fee plus a, connection fee.
Any other thoughts or comments?
You guys-
On the idea of a connection fee and how to charge for it?
No, I mean, I don't think you need to break it down nearly as, if you have some crazy, size, then yeah, but I mean, I would say almost up to 1.5 inches is all the same.
Yeah.
I don't think, I
Up
don't
2
think,
inches,
I don't
yeah,
think you
I
need to
agree.
break it out 5/8, 3/4, 1,
I
1 and a
agree.
half.
I
You
agree.
go all the way up, you probably go to,
I don't even
you know,
think
inch and a
5/8 is a
half,
thing
6,
anymore.
and then whatever. And
I
just
agree.
make it simple
You could
and
have- you could
straightforward there.
And no one's gonna have a 10 or a 12, by the way. But
Probably
that's-
not.
That's a
But
freaking
no,
skyscraper.
Manufacturer.
One of the things you've been thinking about, Bob, is the number of units being charged, the minimum versus the total water use. If we had a per charge per unit created, there would be if there's 16 condos and they're all apartments being rented, one water meter, you'd still have a charge for 16 connections
A connection fee?
per unit.
Yes, but I also believe that there should be a connection. Joining the club should cost you something.
Right, per unit.
Well, maybe we
Not
should
Yes.
do, maybe we should
not
do
per
it this way.
connection,
So
per
there's a,
unit.
Yeah,
there's a single,
it matters what's connecting in that connection, yes.
Unit.
there's a single-family home connection fee. And then any multifamily maybe should just be captured
Per unit.
in the commercial, right? Because it's gonna require a bigger pipe and then that'll increase.
I don't like heading
Oh,
towards
you're-
that, I don't like the commercial where you scale it up, Craig,
Yeah,
that much.
okay.
You capture it per unit.
Okay, so multifamily you would capture per unit. So what if you've got a building, and I'm gonna build a building?
Okay.
And I got 10,000 square feet of retail on the first floor and 10 apartments on the above.
11 units.
So the retail on the first floor is 1 unit,
Yep.
but I'm gonna put 2 restaurants in that space.
And the next year, they'll pay their charge. But the restaurant's gonna fail, and it'll be a yoga studio in a year.
Personal service, that's where we're heading.
Right? And you don't know the tenant when you build a building, you know that.
No, you don't, but you have to pick
So-
some square footage that becomes a unit, basically, for the commercial on the
Yeah.
first floor.
Yeah, so that
Or
kind of
the
heads.
first, whatever amount of
So that
floors.
goes back to
So
Bethel.
you just need to pick you just need to pick a number and live by it, basically, I think.
So, if the average house size is 3,000 square feet, is that a unit, or whatever the average house size is? So if you've got a commercial space that's less than 3,000 square feet, it's a unit. If it's 6,000 square feet, it's 2 units. If it's 9,000 square feet, it's 3 units, that kind of thing.
Yes.
You're headed into fuzzy math.
Huh?
What
You had
happens
it
in
into
the
fuzzy
future if they
math.
subdivide?
I kind of like it, though.
I don't think it's fuzzy. I
Well,
think
when
it's
we
it's
do
much more.
subdivisions, we usually require new
straightforward.
No,
connections
I
for the
don't
next
mean,
one.
I meant they
Or
subdivide.
to re-demise the commercial space.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know.
What-
But if you're doing it based on the total floor area, you don't care if
Right.
it's one big demised space or 10, it's the same amount of total floor area. I kind of like that.
You know, they don't usually put additional bathrooms in later, even though you could.
Well, commercial space, you're not worried about the bathroom. You're more worried about a kitchen or a laundromat or something along there where you're using a great deal of water.
So,
But are you worrying about that with the connection fee?
Yes.
Try.
Because if you are something that uses more water, you're gonna put more demand on the system.
Okay.
Yes, you're gonna pay more in user fees, but you should also be paying more as a connection because you're gonna put more stress
Okay.
on the system.
yeah, I agree with that.
There's no way to know, though, when you're proposing a project, whether you're gonna get a restaurant.
No, but you can't wait until after the fact and then,
Yeah, but
like
so-
you just
okay,
had
but
a
to your
problem with
point-
doing it after the fact in the second, in the, checks and balances.
Mm-hmm.
So now we're doing it, we're trying to get ahead of it.
Well, I have a lot more reasons why I have that
So,
belief.
but
Trust me.
going back to the Bethel version, they don't get into use. Yoga studio, restaurant, they don't care.
Just square footage?
Square footage of commercial, that's it. And so you would pay per unit
Mm-hmm.
on any apartments or townhomes or condos or single-family houses. And then you pay based on your total square footage of commercial space.
With the waiver provision, like Norway.
Well,
Where's Stanford?
But is it-
no, this is different, because the waiver came with
Yeah.
the tap size. This isn't tap size, this is just square footage. I mean,
But the developer pays for the square footage of the building, then he subdivides it?
No, but he doesn't always know what uses are going in.
well, yeah.
No,
so-
but what
so-
I'm saying is he has a 10,000 square foot building. So
right.
he pays a connection fee on 10,000, he
Yes.
could put 10,000
Yes.
square foot
We
units
don't
in
care,
there.
he's got the right connection fee.
So yes, I mean, we're,
And we don't care if
we're,
it's a
we're
yoga
probably
studio
on the
or
short
restaurant.
end of this because it doesn't take into account a restaurant or something like that. So you're we're just getting something for them to connect, which I think is fair. We're not trying to recoup the whole thing and trying to guess what they're putting in there. We're just saying, you built a 10,000 square foot building that's being connected to this sewer system, you're paying X because it's 10,000 square feet.
So,
If you build a 10,000 square foot warehouse with one,
Right, toilet.
Yeah.
one toilet.
Well, then can they come in and ask for a waiver?
I don't believe so. I think then you're
No.
getting, but, so does that mean if someone
Because they
puts a
could- they could
restaurant in,
convert
we
in the
go and
future.
ask them for more because they're putting a restaurant
yeah,
in?
so now we
No.
gotta be involved.
Wait a
It's,
minute.
I don't believe that. I believe it's much more cut and dry and
So,
just stays that way.
to use Reese's example in reverse, when they get their sewer permit, they say it's gonna be a yoga studio with a half bathroom. And
Restaurant.
6 months later,
Pizza joint.
they propose a restaurant, you know? and-
Shake.
Yeah, whatever.
Right.
And so,
Of course, it'll all be.
we don't want to be involved in every land
Right.
use application, trying to calculate a fee or back figure something.
I don't think we
So-
should. I think we should come
So
up
it's
with.
just the size of the commercial space, and that's it.
Well, what if there was a connection and they're just remodeling a building?
Well,
Well-
rather than the size of the space, why
But they're
don't we
not
do
gonna
it
do
by
a
the?
disconnect,
the
so
water
This is
they
pipe?
can
called-
reconnect.
This is called a connection fee. So it would be charged when people are asking to connect
Or reconnect.
to the sewer, or reconnect if they've demoed it and reconnect. How does it work in a knockdown rebuild? Do they pay another, we don't charge connection fees, we don't know.
They've already paid for
They've
their
already
system.
paid.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
in my opinion, this connection fee should be not connected to an appraisal, an assessment. If somebody paid for the installation of the sewer, that is kind of their cost, kind of their payment to join the club, as you say, right?
Their installation of the
If,
sewer?
if it was already there.
Yeah,
And they
like-
knocked a house down and built a new house, they've already paid for it.
They've already paid.
That property paid to put that in years ago.
Town infrastructure's already out there.
You're not gonna
Whoa,
charge
whoa,
them.
whoa. So, but you're saying if someone tears down a 1,000 square foot building and puts up a 1,000 square foot building, but it's 20 stories tall, it should be the same?
It's
No.
not 1,000 square feet.
But you're saying that the cost, they already did the sewer, so they're gonna not disconnect it, they're
Well,
gonna keep it and stub it up.
let's take
That's-
any one of these development projects.
that's-
All three properties are currently served by sewer connections.
Right.
But they're all undergoing significant redevelopment, and they're all getting more intense sewer uses on them.
Can I interrupt you?
Yeah.
But they all did capacity analysis downstream, all three of them. It's a good point. You could,
And using your reasoning from before, their cost, their sewer connection cost in the past was nothing. So that means they paid nothing to join the system and they're gonna pay nothing again?
They might have put the sewer in, they might have been part of the party
Yeah.
that built that connection to
Well,
that
they've
sewer.
been paying sewer user fees
Yeah.
for,
But we know they're different.
well, so, but
Connection.
let's move back.
You
We're-
can do
we're-
it.
Hold on.
I don't think we're
We
making it so
thought-
high that it's
We
prohibitive.
thought it was a good idea to establish a clear sewer connection fee, so we didn't have to make it up as we went along in situations where there wasn't a developer's agreement, or there was, or was it still active, or can we find it, whatever, all that.
Or a house in a sewer shed that
Yeah.
wants to connect.
Yeah.
A single house that
So,
hasn't connected, for whatever reason.
We thought it was a good idea to establish them, so we still think it's a good idea to establish them. And the question as to, is a property once connected, always connected, will never again pay a connection fee? Or is there some threshold or line that is crossed that would require a new connection fee?
I think that you brought up a very good point. Let's remember why this came about in the first place. There's two
Yeah.
recent projects. One is on Old Kings Highway South. It was a woman who wants to connect to the former Westmere sewer. And we paid a whole bunch of money to get that sewer. And everybody else who connected to it would have paid. And in fact, the town would have paid. We actually paid more to connect our Brushy Hill sewer into that. And it wasn't equitable. Another example was the gentleman on Mansfield Avenue. That was a developer's sewer, put in by David Mixter. The sewer project was paid off. The commission thought, I think correctly so, why should one person get it for free when everybody else on the street paid? It was just a question of equity. I hadn't thought as far as a single-family house being taken down and a 20-story building being put up, and I don't think that's what you folks envisioned when you first thought of this.
No, but I'm saying if you had a 1,000-square-foot building, not a house, but just a
Okay.
building.
Well,
and you
let's put it,
up a-
but let's put it in something reasonable, which is someone knocks down a single-family house, wants to put up 16 apartments. Just happened.
Yeah.
Is that sewer connection valid for free, or since you're increasing density, basically, you're increasing, so is that the test? When you could replace a house for a house, and that's no change, but if you replace a house with 2 houses, well, that's a change, or a house with 10 houses, that's a change.
Okay, and just for example, just throw Bethel into that. So the person, it would cost them $8,000. I don't believe that $8,000 on a 16-unit
It's not an unreasonable
establishment
charge.
is
And I don't
unreasonable
know
or
that-
prohibitive
and
or
I don't
anything.
know that
So
the-
I think we're like,
Yeah.
we're going a little, as
Yeah, but
long as
we're-
we keep it reasonable, I don't think we need to go and discuss this to minutia.
It's also funny because we're doing it to help ourselves make things easier, but it's like the more sentences you write,
Yep.
the more room there is between the lines. So there, we're going to find the land of unintended consequences here somewhere, and we're probably going to be back in the same situation of trying to make some discretionary judgment on what will be a gray area. And, at this point, we're not going to capture these 3 big developments in our fees, so, really what's next, and maybe there's always another one coming. So it's interesting. I think these are all interesting questions. But I also kind of agree with the idea that if you are adding density, that's kind of a new connection. If you're adding a certain amount of square footage to a commercial building, that's probably ought to be looked at as a new connection. So I think there's an easy way to say what's reusing a connection and what is effectively adding. So if I want to connect, I'm going to do an addition on my office building, and I'm going to put 10,000 more square feet on my office building. Well, you want to connect that 10,000 square feet, you're going to have to pay something for it. Is that unreasonable to manage or think? I don't think so.
What if, originally, when you built your first 10,000 square feet, you made an allowance in the connection big enough so that you could add 10,000?
Yeah, so you don't need to actually do any physical work, which means you don't need a sewer permit.
Right.
And then we don't even know it's happening because they don't even need a sewer permit. And how do we then say, oh, well, wait a second?
That's correct. If it's inside the building, it's all the building department.
I mean, if you were to add 10,000 more square feet, right, you'd have to go through
Planning and
building
zoning.
department, and they,
And
you
building
know,
department.
they would essentially, they wouldn't necessarily look at the connection size, would they? I mean, are they qualified to do that?
Yeah, no, they,
No.
well,
Well, I mean, it's sort of,
someone hopefully is looking at it.
this is somewhat complicated.
Yeah, it is. It's like, it's not as easy as saying, here's a fee. You have to figure out how it's going to apply and to whom. So-
Probably why so many different towns do it differently.
I like Bethel's, so it's cleaner.
Yeah, Bethel's is
I
still
like
very
Bethel,
simple.
very simple.
I can't support Stanford's nonsense.
No, I can't either.
I couldn't
Crazy.
understand Stanford.
Uh,
I thought Bethel was the easiest.
Well, are we going to, we're not deciding.
Well, no, we
now.
can't decide because something like this would have to be
Right.
put into the form that would go in the ordinance, that would have a public hearing, that yada, yada, yada. But the question is, are we still interested in pursuing connection fees? And if so, are we going to ask staff to do anything for an upcoming meeting to continue the conversation?
we have agreement here as to what it should be, the connection fee should be?
Well, in terms of an actual, I want to get to, do we want it?
So you're
And
still
how would
back
you,
at, do we
and
want
how
it?
would you apply it? Well, because how would you apply it has a lot to do with, do you want it?
How about
Right,
this?
because I would never
Yeah.
have thought to have a replacement building.
Yeah, and
Have to
I-
pay another
Well,
connection.
Either would I.
How about
They
in a
didn't
fully,
pay, they haven't paid one before.
how about this? In a
We've
fully-
never had one.
You don't know that.
I don't believe there's ever been one.
In a
Well,
fully
we've char-
funded.
We've charged
Yeah,
a
there's
few
appraisals.
connection fees since I've been here.
Assessments.
Well, those are assessments, not connection fees.
Well,
Sewer
wait a
assessment.
minute.
we have
Well,
charged we have
That's
charged
that's an
connection fees.
assess, well,
The way we have tended to charge connection fees in the past is not the town of Darien. Well, let me say that differently. If the town of Darien pursues a project and we expand the sewer, and the sewer comes at a cost, well, that's an assessment, that's right.
It's based on whether.
And so it's really, it's one that might be, subject to a developer's agreement, where the developer agreement spells out, if you want to tie in, it's going to cost you this much.
So I think
And we're not even collecting that money, we're handing it back to the developer.
Where this all
Sewer.
started was a fully
General.
funded sewer shed where somebody wanted to make a new connection.
Yeah.
So why not just have it that tight? In a fully funded sewer shed, any new connection should be charged X.
But to Bob's point,
That covers those two houses. That's where this started.
but to Bob's point.
no,
what
I
if
mean,
you-
I've said it before we had those.
I
come
know,
up.
you like fees. I get that.
I think it's fair.
Well, fair is a very vague word in today's.
My opinion, it's fair.
Well, I think one of the advantages that we saw when we were having the discussion on whether or not to establish a connection fee was when you open a building and get a CO, you've paid the minimum charge for the sewer, and because it was, based on last year's water meter and you didn't have a building up. So you're gonna get your whole first year of sewer use effectively for free, and not pay your bill to the second year. And so we thought, well, that isn't fair, because someone's actually built a, Parkland's assisted living, 100,000 square foot
Didn't pay for it.
building, and they're paying charges based on, whatever.
Last year's.
And,
water use.
and, doesn't it make sense to at least try to get some of that money for the first year? So we thought that was fair, and made sense. Although
So
we're
did you
we're charging
charge
them
a
monthly, aren't we?
connection
Yeah, so-
Parklands, no,
No.
but we,
Parklands, no, okay.
They had a sewer.
we asked staff
They
to
were
back
used to
charge
sewer.
as they were going along,
Yeah,
correct?
yeah.
But they.
We asked staff, so after 3 months, they looked at the water usage and they back billed them.
But,
So they actually got an actual usage during that period of time.
Yes, Peter?
but Parkland, I would think, would have to have a larger connection.
They
Yeah,
made
that's the
adjustments to the sewer easements,
Oh,
sewer
yeah.
lines on their site, but they're, basically the sewer in the street was fine.
How about the connection? to-
Yeah, so they would have kicked it into a sewer permit, and we would have seen it at that time.
I mean,
So that could be the threshold when
yeah, I
you
mean,
need, when you
it
need a
seems to
sewer
me
permit.
Sewer, the maximum, when you
Capacity.
design a building.
Yeah, you got a 4-inch pipe, and if you make the building bigger, you're gonna need a 6-inch
You need a
pipe.
bigger
And then if
pipe,
we need a
and that's-
6-inch pipe, it kicks the sewer permit, and that's when the connection fee would apply. It would not apply if you didn't need a sewer permit.
Yeah.
So that's an
You know,
easy starting point.
And that might be because you figured you're gonna expand it in the future, and you bought that connection fee and permit in the past, and you paid for it.
So I'm conscious that our reporter is leaving in 10 minutes to make it to another meeting.
All right.
We are stuck on item 7D, and we still have other things
Why
to
don't we just
discuss.
table this and move on?
Yeah,
I think
I'm
we
fine
made good headway.
tabling it. Can you leave it on the agenda for next time to continue conversation and keep Norwalk and Bethel in the packet, so we have those to look at? Yeah.
Would you like any further information or
Well,
comments?
I mean, the one we've been kicking around is what's the threshold that constitutes a new connection? So that's the one, and then,
Or
is
is
it
it
just
gen-
straight residential? You know, is it residential up to 3,000 square feet
I
or
think-
5,000 square feet? No, I'm asking what Bethel's is. You're saying theirs is
right
cut
here.
and dry. Oh, the whole thing is there? Sorry. I missed it.
Yeah, they've got a per unit for residential and then a per square foot for non-residential.
Okay.
But we don't know what their threshold is.
Oh, yeah, I mean,
That creates a new connection.
yes. So, but we get to define what new
And there's
connection.
no multifamily there either. I'm in Bob's
Newer,
camp.
newer upgraded.
I'm in Bob's camp with density increases. That's why I went per unit.
So that's good.
Yep.
But, you know, same thing, if you double the size of your non-residential, you know, maybe you should be paying something, if you need to upgrade yours.
Okay.
So that's the throttle.
That would be the threshold.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think we're getting close.
Yeah, I mean,
But I don't think,
Right.
I don't think we're close enough to tell them to write something for us to look at.
no, but I don't think we're
Not that far
we're
off.
looking at anything that's going to make things prohibitive either. I think we're just looking for a reasonable fee.
Yes.
But we first have to understand what the definition of that change is.
Yeah, I think we're getting close. All right, so moving on from 7D to 7E, condo charges, you have a great memo here in the back, which I read. And
Thank you.
you looked at 4 or more properties and how they're handled in multi-unit situations. And for all 4 that you looked at, the actual usage came out to more per unit than the minimum charge. So adding a
occupied
minimum
units.
charge, what's that?
For occupied units,
For occupied units. For,
correct.
so adding a minimum charge per unit wouldn't necessarily generate any money, except for, I guess, where you have a building that's mostly unoccupied,
Yes, which is number 4.
which is also not generating a lot of water because it's mostly unoccupied.
Yeah.
Right. And there may be some rented units
Those,
in there.
those are the 4 that the commission asked us to look at.
Yep.
And
Perfect.
we only looked at those 4 because those are the 4 that the commission specifically asked.
Well, but now, at least number 4, you're looking at it how many years down the road?
Right.
I mean, those first couple of years, it wasn't anywhere near like this. It was, you know,
So once it's seasoned.
if they had been paying 16 times the minimum,
Yeah,
they would have been paying their fair share, and they weren't paying their fair share.
well, how do you define it?
Yeah.
One person's fair is not necessarily
Okay.
the other person's fair.
They
It's
weren't
fair because
paying
I'm
their
paying
fair
for all the
share
water
in-
I'm using.
No, they had the ability to use it in each of the 16 units.
Maybe that should be
To
covered
me-
with a connection
To
fee.
me, paying the minimum
Yeah.
is you're paying for the ability to instantaneously go from 0 to 100, basically,
Yeah.
and use the water.
Yeah.
Having it on standby, you should be paying for it.
On the other
Would
hand, when they
your-
start using it, it costs.
Yeah,
Well, it costs the next year.
Well,
yeah. So if
0 to 39.
if we had
Minimum first year.
connection fees in place
Yeah.
that would
Catches the
capture
first
some
year.
money upfront, and that, so they have a right to use, they've established the right to use, and then
Actual use.
they're gonna go by actual use at some point in the future.
aren't we billing, don't we collect the money, well,
In
in
advance,
advance?
but.
Based
right.
on previous
Based
water
on
use.
previous use?
Water use, yeah.
Yeah,
So
so when you have
if they didn't
zero.
use a lot of water last year because it was empty, they pay a small bill and then they fill it up and then it's full, but they're not paying.
But the thing we're missing here is, they could have conceivably paid this year
You know,
$237.19 for the entire 16 units. That is absurd, in my opinion. They should be paying the $219.37 times 16 at a minimum.
Well, it was interesting, once things are fully occupied, that the usage
Goes to that. Or
But
more.
then-
overwhelms
so this is what
the
we-
minimum.
So then, in every situation where we have a multi-unit structure,
New build.
old build or new build,
Old
we're
build.
trying to build someone's property, like all these. We have to go through the process of doing the calculation on actual usage, and then seeing whether or not the minimum applies.
Can't do that.
It's
Uh,
not that, it's
there's-
not that hard.
This is
It's
like.
not hard, but there might be 50 of them.
This is like the,
So it would take you 2 hours.
this is the problem.
If you have
But
the,
we can't get the calculations right on the ones we do have.
I mean, the problem is
Sometimes
that you're
they're-
caught in the accounting systems
Excuse me?
between a cash accounting basis and an accrual basis.
Yeah.
And you could have condos where it's in the documents that the condo pays the water, and then suddenly next year it's individual owners.
Well, all these is,
but it all
no,
depends,
it's not,
it all, if
rebilling.
there's one unit,
We
if
would
there's
never
one meter
go-
for every condo, that settles
Yeah.
itself.
We would never go.
It's only the
to-
units where there's one meter that serves multiple residential units.
Whatever it is, it's gotta be simple.
We would never go to a
Because it costs
situation.
money when it gets
Yeah.
complicated.
We would never go to a situation where we would send individual bills out to. Says the lawyer. Alan O'Neill, right?
That's what they used to do.
Well, that's because they were all single-family structures.
Brook Street was done that way. We just undid it 3 years ago,
Well,
before Bob got here, just before Bob.
You're
I
the
understand that.
exception that
I
proves the
understand that.
rule.
I understand.
You're the
But
exception
that's
that proves
also-
the rule, right?
So here we are. Bob continues to believe. In
my humble opinion.
Bob continues to believe that every dwelling unit, period, should be tested against the minimum user fee, and that property of however many units should at least pay the minimum times however many units are on that property, period, regardless of use.
Or actually,
And that's not that.
As we've talked about this, we said, well, okay, let's look at it and let's see if it matters, because I think it's much ado about nothing, is where I was. And so these guys looked at 4 properties, and 3 out of 4 of those properties were in fact much ado about nothing,
Because they're occupied.
because as soon as they're occupied, they're gonna use that at least that much water, is kind of what we're seeing. So the question is, do we go through the process of changing how we do this to move away from simply billing for the amount of water used, or checking also whether or not they should pay more based on applying the minimum user charge?
There
So,
is one other place that isn't on this list, and that's the new place over at Celix, which is
Yeah.
not at all 100% subscribed.
It's very
I think
empty.
It's very empty.
it's 105 units.
105
when-
units, and it's very empty, so if you were to take the same logic, you would probably see they'd be the same as number 4.
Yes, they would.
Because once you don't have people using water,
But if they're not using the water, why are we making them pay at least the minimum charge every year for a multi-user facility such as
well,
that?
I believe that Bob has said repeatedly that it's his.
Because you're in the club. And they
Yeah.
have 105.
Because you have the ability to use it.
No, look, this gets back to sub-metering.
So, Bob, can you appreciate that I understand why you think that's fair, but can you understand why I think it's fine and fair to just do it based on the amount of water used?
I don't think it's, if you're gonna do that, then that lady that was at 79,
So then you want to get rid of the
79 Locust
you
Hill
want to get rid of
should
the
be
minimum
paying about
charge.
$4.12 for the year.
You want to get rid of the minimum charge everywhere.
Well, wait a minute, why is she paying the minimum charge? Because she's connected to the system and has the ability to use it, and we need her money to maintain the system, correct?
You don't want to
That's
hang
not
out?
why, that's not why we have a minimum?
I'd love to help.
Why do we have a
I
minimum?
mean, because,
Thank you
Why
very
do
much.
we have a
Elizabeth.
minimum then?
wait, you're talking about.
Darren,
I'm
you got the
talking about
notes from here?
minimums, just in general.
You can always,
Why?
you can always
She's gonna call Darren
stream
tomorrow.
it
Because
on
the condo, what they
demand.
do is they circumvent the
stream it on
rules and put
demand on
one
our
water
Vimeo
meter in
channel.
instead of 16.
Well, wait, the condo ordinance
See you later.
then takes that water meter reading and breaks it down
Sam
and
doesn't
charges
support that.
each of the people.
But because of the way our billing system works, because they have one meter, we only charge them one bill.
Talk about it.
But
But they have 16 units.
Yeah, but it depends on the water they're using.
Gentlemen,
We can catch it in the, Bob, we can catch it in the connection
Let's
fee per unit.
bring
The
down
first
the
year.
emotion,
Right.
because at the end of the day, it's all okay. And it's not gonna matter too much, whatever we decide, and it's okay if people have different opinions.
It's good.
It's good. In fact, discussion is good.
Democracy. Thanks.
This is not an actual agenda item. It is information presented during the superintendent's report.
Yes.
So I guess what I would like to hear is, do we have a consensus to continue pursuing a revision to how we handle condo or multi-unit property charges? If we have a consensus, then it should move to its own regular meeting item with a proposal along with it. And then it would have to go into our fees, which would have to be approved at a public hearing. So,
Do you want to just go down?
How
so
do you
let me,
determine whether you
so
have a
let me,
consensus?
and
wanna start with-
I know I shouldn't do this. Does anybody want to table this, take no action and continue discussion? That's one option for a motion. Another option for a motion is to say, I do think we should change our condo charges, and this is how, and we should continue to pursue it.
I think you should
and-
take that one and put a do or do not.
And the third option is I do not think we should change our condo charges or continue to pursue changing our condo charges. So I've given the four of you three options.
Okay, I don't think
For a
it just
motion.
pertains to condos, though. If you have an apartment building, which isn't a
Units,
condo.
a dwelling unit.
Okay, that's-
Multi-unit, multi-tenanted, multi-unit.
Yes, so I believe that, I mean, I'll just say it, I believe that in a multi-unit building, condo association, each, the
We're
minimum.
not making the final decision. We're
well,
just trying
but
to-
so-
Hold on one second. I'm not making any decisions. We're
No, I get it, I'm just,
trying to get consensus, but do you have something to say?
You threw out the very first option, and I want to add that neither Darren and I have dipped our toe into other towns to see what they do. More than happy to look that information up
Okay.
and give you some more
All right.
information to chew on.
That was what I was going to
Then
ask
I
when it
make
came
a
to me. I was
motion
going to
to
say, well,
table
what does
this
New Canaan do?
Make a motion, table is pending.
Receipt of additional information from staff.
Additional information from our very talented staff. How about that?
I'll second.
So it's not dead yet, Bob?
Life support.
it's only been about 18 months I've been talking about it. Maybe longer.
Working
There are
its way up
elements
to
of
the top of
accounting
the,
here.
top of the
And
pile.
it's so funny, because a year before you got here, it was the same thing.
All right, so we're going to table item 7E. Staff is going to look into how area towns handle minimum user fee charges for multi-unit meters, essentially.
Multi-unit, single meter,
Yeah,
Yeah.
multi-unit. single user
Situations.
Situations, yeah. Situations. 7F,
Okay,
Nothing new. Didn't,
7G.
okay.
trying to write down what I'm supposed to do for you guys. I went through the invoice, I sent them a response yesterday. I have some questions, of course, on their billing. Had some questions upon reviewing some of their expenditures and their encumbrances. There's some questions on their closeout and their auditing process that I'd like to talk to them about. In particular, there's a line that we get charged for. It says actually year-to-date expenditure plus encumbrance, which one would assume that encumbrance gets used, which means it should be an expense and it shouldn't be an encumbrance line. So I just some questions of what happens if you don't spend it all.
I'm not familiar with the word encumbrance.
You set the money aside to pay a bill. So let's say for the year, this year, July 1st, I put in a PO, which is an encumbrance against our electric line item for $100,000.
It's reserved.
Can't spend it, sitting there for me to spend it on electric. I get to June, and my electric bills have totaled only $80,000. There's an encumbrance sitting there of 20 grand at the end of the fiscal year. What happens to that money? Does it really get spent? I don't know. Those are questions I want to ask them. So that kind of stuck out this year to me, and there was a question I definitely want to bring their attention. I sat with our finance director and reviewed that with her, and she gave me some feedback on that too, so.
So are, through this process, are we also going to be truing up our charges on the 2 recently installed meters?
I made an adjustment in their use, their percentage. They had used the first 2 months that we had it operational. By the time I got the invoice from them, it had been 4 months. So I went back and recalculated with 4 months and adjusted all of the payments because they all came down about one whole percentage flow-wise.
So those crossings have been more favorable than we thought.
They're starting to reduce it themselves and balance out. What we'll do now, next year's invoice, we'll go back and check to make sure that what I used for the payment is appropriate, and if not, adjust that appropriately for one last time. But we'll have a full year.
Were there estimates of the crossings volumes higher than the actual?
Theirs was about a full percentage higher.
Can we ask retroactively for any leveling of that?
Excuse me?
Can we ask, go back another year?
It was already baked in.
I just did.
Okay.
I went into it and readjusted it again from the actual flows. They used actual flows. I used more data to reduce it again, and it started to drop off
The
even more.
agreement is based on when we have good data, we will
Yeah.
recalculate.
I think once we get a full year plus into it. I was a little disappointed. I didn't get the invoice to December 12th. I don't know if I told you folks that.
When does it technically due?
End of October, first week of November.
It's
Give her
for-
some
it's for
latitude.
starting to pay in January.
It's so I can make an adjustment if I have to.
Okay.
So I missed January, and I had to make an adjustment up a little bit higher than I wanted to, but I want to try to balance out the payments now and get us down to where we should be. The nitrogen credits came in as we thought they would be, 2.5 million. Yes, 2.5 million in nitrogen credits, and we got about 50,000 of that, or $500,000 of that, if you will. 16%, 15% of that. It's probably the only things that really stuck out. I sent that to them, hopefully to set up a meeting in the next 2 weeks and have them go over their expenditures.
Okay. Anything else under the superintendent's report?
I have 2 quick things.
Yes, sir.
Happy to report today the meter was installed at the Gardner Center. Commissioner may remember that issue. It was installed. Anthony read it for the first time today. 000, starting right now, today. The second thing, I'll call it I, is sump pumps. We have a memorandum here that the commission asked us to draft. Ed came up with another idea. If we're going to go out to home inspectors, why not reach out to the Board of Realtors? We've had some conversation with Commissioner Hutchinson as a member of the Board of Realtors. We're still looking for a list. If we get a list of people, we can
Send in a letter.
we can direct mail, email. Ed had the additional idea of perhaps including that with sewer billing, because we were so successful with the backflow prevention valves by taking that approach last year. And
Yeah, I think that would be great to do for 2 or 3 years on the sump pump connections. Absolutely.
at least it's going to take at least that long before we start to make a serious dent in it, I would think, anyway, personally. Also, we received a tip about building on the Post Road, that there was a sump pump connected into a sewer, And there was construction going on there, so we asked the building department to follow up. They did. They took pictures, and Anthony Taccone is having meetings with them now. I understand they claim that it's actually connected into the storm drain. We're going to follow it through, do dye testing or whatever is necessary to make sure. But that's good news.
Great, thank you.
That's it for me.
We done with superintendent's report?
Well, they answered a question of mine, but you guys didn't hear the answer, so you want to tell them about Nearwater Lane and the tanks?
Oh, okay, we'll call that ABCI
Jay?
J. Thank you. We did speak to Stanford, their chemist, their lab, and it was interesting because the COD was kind of high. I think it was in the 400s, which is a lot higher than the BOD that we would expect in our wastewater. Nevertheless, their lab tech said that just discharge, 1,000 gallons, 10,000 gallons in a day into your collection system, it will be diluted to the point where it will not interfere with our treatment process. So we did inform Commissioner Hill, and I think one of the questions that I would have, I don't know what Ed's feelings are on this, but what are we going to do with the tanks? If it seems
Yeah.
clear to me that it's easy to get rid of the water, is it going to fill back up? Are we
It'll
going
fill
to
back up.
demolish the tanks? Are we going to fill the tanks with dirt? Are we going to drill a hole in the bottom so the water can go up and down on its own like it does outside of the tanks? I don't know any of the, I don't know the direction that the commission wants to go there.
Well, it seems as though
Or Ed.
having, well, I would love to hear from you guys. You guys take priority, I think, because you're the boots on the ground, but
And he's the guy who sealed it up too, right? You made it safe.
Yeah.
He
but
covered the top. I wasn't there.
An abandoned
I know who did.
structure, which we are not using and will never use in its condition.
Make a great
It is,
foundation.
it is only going to degrade more over time. Now, maybe that's 10 years or 30 years or 50 years, but it is a man-made structure that will degrade over time. It seems like we should be filling these things up to avoid, negative consequences of degradation in the future. That's kind of my first thought, but I'm happy to
So we
keep
want
an open
to fill
mind
it with
about.
Fill it with
what
trap
we
rock
might-
and
Yeah,
pour a slab on top of it? Cap it?
there, just fill it with trap rock, I don't know. You can think about it more and get back to us. The positives and
You said
negatives of
fill it
such
up.
an idea.
To stop potential future negative consequences. I get that right. I just want to make sure I get it right.
Yeah.
Thanks.
I don't know if anyone recalls, but when Susan and I were there, there was a spot, I want to say it was about this big, where the concrete degraded to the point where it fell through. So I just think that that's if I remember correctly, a harbinger of what's going to happen. And so I would say, at the very least, what we need to do is empty it, puncture multiple holes in the floor, and fill it. If not, cave it in. But I don't believe that leaving it full of water is a good option, in my humble opinion.
So there's two opinions, somewhat similar,
Yeah. Punch a hole and fill it with trap rock.
like a septic tank, crush and fill. So
Is this an
you'll,
expensive operation?
it's money, it's not expensive.
The other thing that we do have to do probably ahead of time is you probably do have to try and pump it down some and then, stop, because you might be just basically fighting the tide in your 1,000 gallons. It might start coming in as fast as you're trying to get it out.
If the tank is already punctured, that's possible.
Because if I remember correctly, it is not up to the overflow. It's down some, so I don't know exactly where the connection is with the outside world there
Sorry.
and why it's down.
Well, whatever we do down there, it's going to be timed properly so that we pump it down at low tide. I did go down to try to find where you had said there was some concrete degradation to the point where it had caved in. I couldn't find it, or I would have covered it by now.
It was, like I said, it was only
I-
yay big.
I
think-
walked that entire thing back and forth trying to find it because I wanted to make sure, one, if it's something that I should be concerned about, I will address it immediately, but I couldn't find it. And I think there was a couple months ago, I had mentioned that to you. I was like, I went down there again and could not find it. So if you want to tell me where it is, right now, I will inspect it and I will cover it to make sure it's safe. That's one. Two, of all the things I have to do right now, that tank is not a high priority for me, other than maybe pumping it down and making it safe. I said crushing
Yeah, I don't know.
it, removing it, backfilling
Well,
it,
yeah.
it just,
I would be nervous about emptying it because of hydrostatic pressure, and then you've got a fall versus so I don't necessarily see a value in full or empty.
I want to see if it's open to
If you
where
want to
it's bringing
inspect it,
in water
if you want
from
to
the
look at
outside.
the
That-
condition
that's-
of it inside, that's a great idea.
How many times do I have to, how many times should I need to pump it down? Does the levels fluctuate at all?
The most important thing was having it safe with those grates, if kids ever got in there. I mean, we've passed that
I'm at the beach
90%.
We're past that now,
So
because
that's
we
good.
have. But I do
Well,
want to take a look at that one spot.
I'll go back and find, I mean, if I'm the one who's saying I saw it, I should go back and.
Paint it up, mark it,
Yeah, no,
stick
I-
a cone in it so I
I
can
have
find
no
it.
problem doing that.
Alright.
I mean, I opened my mouth, I should be able to.
No,
But
I
if
just
we-
wish I'd found it.
If we know there's nothing that unsafe in the tanks, liquid in there, that's bad, we figured that out.
Yeah.
And no one can fall in now. We could call it a day, for now,
Yeah,
rather
yeah,
than putting
I'm
a
not-
huge amount of money and time into it.
But there's
As long
going
as
to come a
it's safe.
time that I'm going to want to clean that up.
Totally
Clean
It's
cool.
the
just
whole area.
not right now.
Yeah, when you have time.
And I'm not,
Does that make sense?
yeah, it all makes sense.
I'm at the beach, now that we can walk dogs on the beach in the morning, I'm at the beach a lot. I will walk in and see if I can see this hole. I remember exactly what you're talking about, but I know they've done a lot of work since then, so possibly they've covered it over.
As long as
The
it's
place
safe
where
and
you're
kids don't
talking
fall
about,
in
yeah.
there.
Well,
That
but
was the main thing.
until you inspect the bottom side, you're looking at it from the top. You don't know what the underneath
I
of
get it.
the top slab looks like.
Got it.
But I think I hear that that.
It's a billion things
We'll
to
do
do.
something about it at some point, it's just
Yeah.
not
No,
at the top
if
of
you
the
tell me
list.
where it is, I will, if I have to get a steel plate that's twice the size, I will.
Like I said,
make-
So,
I'll go down there and someday this week, the rest of the week, and try and find it.
Wednesday, each Wednesday.
Anyway, you've heard some thoughts.
Yeah.
You are responsible for the maintenance and operation of the system.
Thank you.
And the outlay of capital expenditures when necessary. I'm not in a rush, but I imagine that just leaving it there in perpetuity is
No.
not a great idea, and I think you agree with that.
I do.
And at the right time, when we have the right resources and time, we'll take a look at it, see the health that it's in, and make decisions about what to do with it.
You will see this spring, this summer, I will get somebody down there to give us a price to do what I believe is the proper approach to
Cool.
making it, filling it, puncturing the bottom of it, cutting it down a certain level below grade and
Yeah.
backfilling it, because I may want to use that area, and I think
Yeah, more
if we leave
parking.
the foundation up, it's going to be too high. So
Yeah.
I'll get a number so that you folks can see.
Great.
what that is.
Any other items under the superintendent's report?
Yeah, I mentioned this, is it okay with you guys?
Yeah.
I moved fast through there. Memos
I
okay?
have to admit that I did not
Didn't
read
you
it.
hand this to us today? We'll have to read this too.
Well,
It looks fine, but-
Just a couple little nits, but
Yeah?
I'll send those to you.
Okay. I'm gonna be a better person.
Yes, you are.
Yeah, I know you.
I mean, the only other
Would've been
thing
nice what you're doing.
I would say was, if you're showing this diagram here, you may want to include the thing that went in our bill. You know, the paperwork, the color diagram in the sewer bills, in these sewer usage fees.
Yeah.
You may want to include that when you're handing it out to them.
Darren, I don't
Yeah.
think that, I don't think they can call the town.
Yeah, I would.
They're legally bound for their duties to the owner, and they would be in big trouble if they put a phone call in
Yeah.
to the town saying, I found an illegal connection in the house I'm representing.
I think the way that I thought.
The home inspectors are gonna let the buyers know.
Yeah, I tend to agree with Reese. I think it.
Take off number 1?
Yeah.
Well, hold on, maybe we need a little more time to reread this, because I think it just comes off as a little heavy-handed to me, which I understand we have to do to get people to pay attention and take action, and maybe the language needs to say similar. But I was imagining where, it effectively becomes a checklist item on a home inspection report.
That would be amazing.
And there'd be a paragraph that says, by the way, the sump connection to the sanitary sewer
May.
is not in compliance with local code, and these types of things aren't allowed to discharge into the sewer. This could be a problem if you buy this house and you want to go get a building permit, they're going to make you correct it.
Well, as a matter of fact, if there's law on this, the law is that if the buyer, or if the seller knows there's a problem,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
They
And
have to tell.
they don't let the buyer
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
they're liable.
So, but this, mostly, you tell me,
But a home inspector usually
is
represents the
usually there
buyer.
for the buyer. But, so, as soon as it's flagged in a home inspection report, the real estate agents and the attorneys are like all over it. And the buyer either has to accept it as flagged, or the seller has to remedy it, or they negotiate a different price to cover it. I mean, so I'm just trying really, and maybe this is where you were coming from, maybe it wasn't, to get the home inspection services to start putting it in their reports. Because I think once they do that, the process is gonna work it out.
But if the home inspection service finds it and doesn't put it in the report,
Yeah.
that's a problem.
That's a problem.
I mean, that's a
because
legal problem.
Yeah, and so we're educating them. We want to make sure your home inspection reports cover this type of illegal connection that's not in compliance with code. Make sure this is one of the things you start checking for. We want to encourage them to have a more complete report that does a complete and full job of identifying code issues in the house and reporting them to the person that hired them.
I would just inform the Department of Public Works of any illegal connection, and I would put as please contact Anthony for any more information as to the last item, which would be 4, and the
Okay.
purpose would be changed.
So just leave the part, contact information
Yeah.
as Anthony.
For
Okay.
any contact information is Anthony Chacon. I'd put him last, after inform the owner, contact a plumber, advise the owner of fines, and then contact Anthony. Does that make sense?
Got it.
Because their duty is to it could be to the, well, it could, used to be just the seller, but it's kind of changed more. I'd like to also capture this when somebody's sitting down, actually writing a listing and saying, I'm representing this, here's your disclosures that you need to fill in, and it's not in the disclosures yet.
Yeah,
But
that's a
there's
great place for it to be.
There's a duty there too, to
agree.
say, this may pop up.
That's a great spot for it.
But it's not there yet, and that's a state
Yeah.
form and all those things. So I just think putting Anthony last if they have any questions, but asking them to actually call and rat someone out, either side. Even the buyer wouldn't have the right to call town hall and to the seller. They don't own the house yet. That could create an absolute,
Okay.
I agree.
And-
So I would strike that, inform the town,
Got it.
and just put Anthony last.
And one final thing, we were told, Jamie let us know that she'll be speaking to the Board of Realtors tomorrow, and she may actually discuss some of the information herein with the Board of Realtors directly.
Okay.
Regarding sump pumps.
Yeah.
And
That's awesome.
Illegal something.
she is the chairman of the WPCA.
She is, man. This is good. Get the first selectman in the weeds, man. It's good.
Great speaker.
We'll get into her to a meeting one day.
Maybe she knows things are going well here.
Yeah.
Doesn't need to come and babysit.
Thank you.
What are we doing?
Are we done with the superintendent's report?
I am.
Way done.
Yeah, please stop.
Make a motion, we have no new business.
right. So we've passed 8, we're on to number 9 on our agenda, which means that we're going to go to executive session, which means that Channel 79 is going to be requested to turn off their cameras and mics. And we promise that the only thing we'll do when we come back from executive session is adjourn the meeting.